Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a powerful story that many of us can relate to on some level. It's a journey of resilience, healing, and the strength that comes from facing the toughest challenges. Before we begin, if you or someone you know needs support, Healing Hearts Therapeutics is here to help. You'll find their contact information below. Now let's get into the story. Stephanie Fu had a really tough time, but she eventually understood she had CPTSD. Stephanie Fu is not an expert on trauma. She's a person who tells stories on the radio and wrote a book about her journey with CPTSD called What My Bones Know. The book isn't always well written, but it tells a scary story about her childhood, trying lots of therapies that didn't work, and finally finding one that did. She talks about how her family and other families experienced trauma over generations. She uses the idea of intergenerational trauma in a way that's touching but not fancy. In another post, I explained what CPTSD means. It's about going through trauma for a long time, usually starting in childhood and lasting for years. Sometimes it involves bad things happening, like abuse, but not always. People with CPTSD often feel trapped and use dissociation to cope. The official Book of Mental Health Doctors, DSM-5-TR, doesn't recognize CPTSD, but another one, ICD-11, does, though it's a bit confusing. The doctors don't seem as interested in this problem as the people who have it. Stephanie Fu was happy to get a diagnosis that explained what she was going through. Growing up in a very difficult situation. Let's take some time to understand Stephanie's own words about her tough childhood. The abuse she went through was really terrible, especially as she got older. A few times each year when my mom got fed up with me, she thought I should go away forever. She would grab my ponytail at the top of the stairs and throw me down. She even threatened me with a cleaver, holding it close to my wrist. Or she would tilt my head back and press the sharp edge against my neck. I would apologize a lot, but she'd yell that I didn't mean it and tell me to be quiet before she hurt me more. I'd stay silent, but then she'd say I wasn't sorry enough. So I'd try to apologize again, and she'd say it didn't mean anything. And now my tears made me so ugly that she was sure I deserved to die. So I'd stay quiet until she told me to talk again. We'd be stuck in this senseless cycle for hours. Page 13. How did I feel when my mom said her suicide attempts were because of me? I can't really explain. Those would be really big feelings for a little girl like me. But what I do know is that every night before bed, I knelt and said the same prayer over and over like a chant. Please, God, don't let me be such a bad girl. Please help me make Mommy and Daddy happy. Please turn me into a good girl. Page 15. Her father didn't offer any help. I'm not good. I'm terrible. I'm bad, I would tell him, and he believed me. He'd ask, why do you have to be like this? Why can't you just be better? What was even worse was what she calls her father's car terrorism. After my mom left, my dad never hit me, but he liked scaring me in the car. It's time for both of us to die, he'd sing, smiling. I'm going to kill myself because I'm tired of this life, and you're a terrible person, so you're coming too. He almost killed us many times. Each time I'd beg and plead, convincing him why we needed to live. Page 34. How did she survive? Though she doesn't talk about it much, Fu seems to think she made it because she hated. Page 30. She put this hatred into action after her mother left, and her father started hurting her. Then I lifted the axe above us in a smooth arc that would end on his balding head, and I started to scream, How do you like it? I said quietly, in that same chilling, emotionless tone I knew so well, and it felt good in my mouth. How does it feel to be on the other side of things? To be inches from death? How does it feel when someone wants to kill you? Page 35. Okay, then let's get one thing straight. You are never going to threaten my life again, never. Do you understand me? Yes. I said, do you understand me? Yes. You will never grab me. You will never touch me. You will never go over the speed limit. You will drive correctly. You will never use your car to punish me. Do you know what growing up with a constant fear of death has done to me? It has turned me into the monster you see right now. This is happening because you did this to me. Page 35. I think her anger saved her from going crazy. She protected her growing self with rage. My anger was my power. But her anger only gave her time. It didn't make her better. It just shielded her broken self from being destroyed. That was a big deal. Stephanie Fu's adult life was tough, as expected. What surprises many is her success in public radio and creating popular podcasts. But her main experience was a deep feeling of dread. A big black fear that messed up everything. Page 52. Her therapist Samantha diagnosed her with CPTSD early on, which was helpful. It gave a name to her pain, and helped her understand all the different problems she was dealing with. She read books about CPTSD, like Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. But reading alone didn't make her feel better. She tried at least 12 different therapies, including EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, meditation, mindfulness, grounding, yin restorative yoga, mindful eating, trauma support groups, massage, hallucinogens, like magic mushroom, which she liked, gratitude, she thought of it as a technique. Gratitude turns what we have into enough, page 140. Each therapy helped a bit, but only for a short time and never enough. Some were more helpful than others. What Stephanie Fu could handle? Stephanie Fu's experiences suggest a difference between CPTSD and borderline personality disorder, BPD. She maintains a long-term relationship, handles a challenging job, isn't suicidal, and avoids risky behaviors like drug abuse, gambling, or unsafe sex, though she admits to drinking too much. These are common signs of BPD. DSM-5 30183, F63. It's possible that she chooses not to write about some aspects, but she's open about many unflattering parts of her life. CPTSD, however, is mostly characterized by dissociation, a feeling she often mentions. Dissociation is a disconnection between experience and feeling, making one feel unreal or not fully present. PTSD, which is now recognized as a dissociative disorder, shows some overlap. Fu's frequent references to dissociation, especially her therapist noting how calmly she recalled terrible episodes from her past. Page 101, and her often feeling not quite real, suggests she used dissociation to protect herself during abuse. Only in better circumstances did dissociation become a problem, because it doesn't just turn off when it's no longer needed. It becomes a way of life, undermining the joy in existence. Intergenerational trauma, Fu's misstep. Where Fu takes a wrong turn is in her attempt to explain her experiences through intergenerational trauma. Moving to America from Malaysia at 2, she belonged to the 1.5 generation, born abroad but raised in the United States by immigrant parents. Trying to explain her experiences in social psychological terms, she talks with classmates who were beaten by their parents for bad grades, considering it part of the Asian experience. She reads about her classmates' painful family histories, understanding that her community was shaped by America's proxy wars against communism. Page 176. While it's possible to place Fu's experiences in the context of contemporary history and sociological terms, social psychology doesn't explain everything. Fu's mother was psychotic, her father hysterical and homicidally depressed. Every family is unique. Hers differed more from other Asian immigrant families than she admits, at least as the book progresses. It's as if she finds solace in belonging to a community of the intergenerationally traumatized. Returning to Malaysia, Stephanie Fu asks her auntie if she saw her being beaten. The auntie says yes, and it's likely she watched when Stephanie's mother slapped her to the ground. Despite witnessing the abuse, auntie later compliments Stephanie, calling her a perfect, good little girl. Stephanie wonders if she's wishing for an auntie who never existed. When she asks why auntie never spoke up during the beatings, the discussion doesn't go anywhere. The relatives were bystanders, and Stephanie turns to epigenetics, suggesting trauma's transmission through generations. The simpler explanation is that the relatives were afraid and under social pressure. It wasn't a normal tiger mom situation. Stephanie's mother was mentally unstable, and no one wanted to confront it, sacrificing Stephanie in the process. Stephanie talks about the epigenetic transmission of trauma, but it may not fit well in her story. While she wants to protect her relatives, trauma transmission might not be the best explanation for their behavior. Her metaphorical statement that her cells carry generations of trauma is powerful, emphasizing the title of her book. However, it's crucial to understand this as a metaphor, not a scientific reality, especially in an age where neurological metaphors are sometimes taken too literally. Stephanie's desire to find words for what her bones know was lost to dissociation and the need to protect her terrible family. She enters therapy with Dr. Ham, a traditional psychotherapist, who explains that complex trauma comes from bad relationships and is healed by trustworthy ones. Stephanie finds healing through therapy with Dr. Ham and her reliable relationship with Joey, recognizing the importance of having someone trustworthy. The book concludes with Stephanie reflecting on her suffering compared to historical tragedies her ancestors faced. However, individual suffering is unique and cannot be directly compared or measured against historical events. Stephanie's childhood of abuse qualifies as severe, fitting the diagnosis of CPTSD. But she emphasizes that acknowledging and addressing the suffering are what truly matter. If the diagnosis helps make sense of the experience, it's beneficial.
To stay updated, kindly subscribe to our notifications. Thanks for your time.